Hey everyone, and welcome to the future of dentistry. This is Allison Lacoustier here with Clear Coaching and Clearly IG, and I'm so excited to have the amazing, beautiful guest, Corinne Devin, on the show today. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for being here.
Allison, thank you so much for having me. It's truly an honor to be part of your show. And I love the movement that you are creating in our industry.
Oh my gosh, I feel like it only makes sense that you get to be on the show, that you're here interviewing, because what you are doing in the industry is so cool. So just share with the audience like where you are right now and what time it is.
Sure. It is actually 5:37 a.m. in the morning, Friday. I am 12 hours ahead of Allison in the future. I am calling in from Iwakuni, Japan, which is outside of Hiroshima. So yes, as an American, you can practice orthodontics everywhere in the world. And that's courtesy of me being in the United States Navy.
Amazing, amazing. Okay, so let me introduce you to those that are listening that do not know you yet, because you are just somebody that as soon as I met you, I was like, we need to be friends. I am just so impressed and so inspired by you, and I just can't wait for everyone else to get to know your journey and where you've been and where you're going, because it's really, really cool and really inspiring. So, Dr. Corinne Devin is a triple crown holding beauty queen and a U.S. naval officer. She is a Navy commander, orthodontist, and a public speaker with a passion for volunteering. So she's currently stationed in Japan, and she is returning to California, concluding her active duty in 2023. So while she was in residency, she competed and won the title Miss Texas. And then after graduating, won Miss United States 2012, internationally won Miss Galaxy 2014, and Miss Earth 2018, and International Miss 2020. So this title allowed her the opportunity to get involved with local communities, speaking at events, including elementary schools, where she mentored young girls and showed them they can be and do anything from beauty queen to Navy officer to orthodontist. She continued to balance her two passions, serving as the keynote speaker at the STEM Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics Conference to over 1,000 middle school girls for the Department of Defense in Japan and Italy. She believes that being well-rounded in a multitude of areas can inspire, motivate, and place the seed of determination into our youth and their peers. So, wow, wow. Welcome to the future of dentistry. And I am excited to talk about how you are creating and helping build the future of dentistry, of orthodontics today. So can you just tell us like, what has inspired you to, that's such an incredible path that you've been on, such an incredible journey. What has inspired you to do the work that you've done and to have accomplished everything that you've accomplished so far?
Well, thank you. And I appreciate such a humbling introduction. I would tell anyone in the audience who's listening that what inspired me was the fact that someone told me no. There was times in my life, whether it was a career counselor, a teacher, even a family member who told me, no, you're reaching too high, let's not go outside of really what you can do. And that was just fuel to my fire of like, okay, watch me. Now I'm going to make this happen. And it was just learning how to be, instead of following a trail, leaving a trail. And that meant me asking for a lot of people for help, taking a critical look at who I was and areas that I can improve, because we all have our strengths and weaknesses. That's just part of being human. There's things that we just naturally get and other things that we have to work really hard at. But one thing that I learned from growing up in a military family to drinking the Kool-Aid was that natural talent's only going to get you so far. It's the extra hard work, the dedication, the doing the things that other people won't do, that over time is going to build the character and is going to give you that extra edge. And, that's no different than becoming an orthodontist, what everyone did to get into dental school and to get into residency, to someone starting their own business and realizing that they really want to find their niche or be that person in the industry known for that one thing. And so for me, pageantry was a complete dare from some colleague in school that told me I couldn't do it. Orthodontics, I never had braces and never dreamed I would be an orthodontist. I wanted to be a pediatric dentist. And that was just by a mentor by chance who told me I had the personality. And I would say, the military, that was just something that if you told my 8-year-old self that I would do my dad's job and deploy and live in the parts of the world, I would tell you were crazy. But, I think it's just been one opportunity presents itself over the other. And I've had colleagues along the way who I'm so grateful for. When I wasn't sure what to do at a fork in the road, they're like, go. You're never going to have a time in your life you could always do this. So that's really what's kind of pushed me. And I've been incredibly humbled and grateful for the opportunities to speak. My most recent was through the American Association of Orthodontists, where I thought, I'm not someone who teaches at a residency. I'm not in private practice. Yes, I do practice orthodontics, but I'm in the military, which is such a different realm of the industry than what some people see, because my patients go on ships, they go on airplanes. Like if I open my sunglass door, you would hear F-16s flying by my window because I live in a high rise in downtown Iwakuni, where it's a Marine Corps station. So sometimes it's surreal, and sometimes it makes me grateful for the small things. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell, I would say.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I love that you said, like, you've been grateful for the opportunities, but you've taken the opportunities, but not everyone does. Sometimes we get opportunities and we allow fear, or we allow self-criticism, or like perfectionism, or all of these things to get in the way of actually taking the step or taking that journey. And it sounds like you've really allowed yourself to step into challenging situations that have allowed you to grow to where you are today. So I think that's amazing. What challenges, like what have been some of the hardest challenges that you've faced? Being well-rounded sometimes has people put us into boxes or into kind of like categories that you have to break out of, or sometimes you have to kind of like prove to yourself or to others that like you can be in all these different spaces. And so in that sense, like what challenges have you faced kind of being in these multifaceted careers and industries?
I would say some of the challenges I face and the criticism I face is like that something's going to suffer. So, these are what I'm about to say, is these are my views and not the views of the Navy, but being a naval officer is my first job. It comes first actually over being a dentist or an orthodontist, because I was a general dentist for a couple of years. And I've learned that with any other passions that I take on, any other hobbies or areas that I want to explore beyond that, you have to do two things really well. One is you have to communicate really well. I have taken coaching lessons. I have constantly worked and fine-tuned my communication, and I still am. There's still areas, even this past week, I was told that I can improve on, and it's learning not to take that as a criticism, because I think it's easy. We all have that type A perfectionist, but learning how to lean in and be curious, be like, okay, I didn't see it from your perspective. Let me see how I can be better, because I've learned that when people do take the time to let you know, hey, this is coming not from the right place, or this is how it's being perceived, they care about you. Because if if no one's telling you any way to improve, I'd be a little worried. You're taking time to do that. So that's one area, but communication. The second area is job performance. You have to show that you are crushing it at your day-to-day job. And that's always been my focus. And I think that when you can show those two things, that you are meeting the mark, meeting the mission, whether it's seeing patients, whether it was 2 days ago, me being weapons familiarization with an M16 rifle or a 9mm pistol, or next week running a physical fitness test and showing that I'm crushing those, then bringing in these other areas that you want to do, whether it's public speaking, getting involved in the community, writing a book, like all of those other passions or pageantry. It shows that you are already like maintaining and taking care of your primary focus. And those are the two areas I would tell people, like, whether you're running a practice, that is your baby. If you are crushing that, then bringing other things in, it shows you haven't lost focus on what's important. You can add to it.
I love that. I love that. And I think that's something that as a type A, or as somebody that's ambitious, or somebody that really wants to do multiple things, it can be challenging, because you don't want to let opportunities go by, but you also don't want to drop any balls. And so I love that you've been able to kind of strike that balance, and also just the advice of, make sure the performance is there, and, demonstrate that performance every single day. And then these other things aren't going to get in the way really of the baby that you have. So I love that. What is the biggest thing you've learned being in the military?
Well, I know we don't have like hours on end,
Yeah.
but I'll
Such
give,
a tough
yeah,
question.
there's been a couple of things I would say is learning to ask for help,
Mm,
learning to ask for help and admit when you are wrong. I think the hardest thing we do is we go to school for so long, we're told all these things, and then we get thrust in a position of leadership or thrust in a pedestal that you feel that if you do anything to break that perfectly porcelain veneer, that it makes you less as a person, when really if you can just be honest, people be like, you know what? Gosh, I'm really torn on what to do. I would love to help her. Do you know someone I can go to? I think it makes you more human. It makes you more relatable. And people like that about you. The other day when I had a colleague brought something to my attention, and it kind of struck me, and I was like, gosh, you know what? I'm happy to take a closer look at this. Like, who could I talk to? Like, is there a book I could read? Is there someone I could learn from so I can be better? I think that speaks volumes of of your integrity, and also the courage you're willing to take to be a better person versus just saying, okay, I got it, good to go, and not really leaning into the problem. So that would be definitely a lesson I've learned. And it's a lesson I didn't really learn until probably about, I would say, when I was in residency. So not until I was about 4 years in the military, when in my first year of residency, of admitting like, I don't know everything, even around these officers who are my attendees, who just are this shining example of like God, but in front of me.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's something I still struggle with, is asking for help. And I think it's almost like the duck on the water. You're trying to look like you're gliding along, but underneath the surface, you're just like, ooh, like paddling
Yes, you're
so
paddling
fast.
like crazy, and like how long can I stay up, and what can I do to still like look like perfect? And it's hard. It's definitely hard, but it humbles. I mean, that's something that I always do, especially with the people that I lead, is like when they come to me with issues or problems, I'm like, how would you solve this? And they're not used to hearing that, because I want them to know their input matters. And that's something I would challenge anyone in our profession is, if you're in a leadership position, when people come to you, with their issues, you have to remember, as a leader, they're trusting you to take care of things. Like, you give away all the credit and you're taking on all the responsibility. It's not glamorous. And with that, that's where I always tell people, if you come to me with a solution or how you would do it if you were in my shoes, I'm going to do my best to actually implement it. And I think that makes people feel even more empowered and more eager to come to you when they see, something that looks like a small ball going down the hill before it becomes a massive snowball that would turn into an avalanche.
I completely agree. And I think people trust you more when you know how to ask for help, and when you're that person that's like, hey, I don't know how to do this, or hey, what do you think? That really allows them to trust you more as a leader.
Yeah.
And that's something I talk to my doctors about all the time. It's something I talk to my teams about all the time. And that is like leadership skills. Like, we didn't really learn leadership skills, or, dentists, orthodontists didn't learn leadership skills in school. And so what would you say to my dentists or my orthodontists that are listening in terms of like developing their leadership skills? It's something that I get a lot of, is like, I wasn't prepared for this. I wasn't prepared to lead this team. Like, what would you say? Where can they start on that journey?
Well, for me, it's almost like going to the gym. Like, you can kind of dabble into it, maybe take a couple classes, maybe read a couple books, but think about how you can apply what you learn. Like, what method is it? Some people need more direct, like one-on-one coaching. Others like take a book, they take notes. So I would say, I would first ask, what's the mode or the modality that you feel like you learn the best? Because once you know that, then the next part comes of like finding the person that's the best fit. I have a few coaches in my life, because I find I do really well with one-on-one, having someone that I can reach out to and really give situations, but then also apply what they learn, whether it's through emails. I would say the biggest thing with leadership starts with communication. Hands down, hands down. It is so easy in the society and the culture that we live in, how things can be misconstrued and mistaken. And also, in-person communication is so much more effective than an email or a phone call. That's one of the struggles I have. My boss is on another island in Japan, and I work with 8 other clinics that are on different islands. So we function in 2 countries and a 19-hour time zone change. So there is not a day that goes by that I am not on my cell phone, waking up early, staying up late, to make sure that an email didn't take a life of its own, or a message from another person wasn't misconstrued to think something else. And that's tough as a leader. I would say it's an evolution. It's like the muscles that you maintain. You just don't stop going to the gym and think that you're going to maintain. It's like the leadership. You're not going to stop going to a course. But I would say the hard part is, once you know how you can learn best, finding the right coach, because there's a lot of coaches out there, and there's some that are great and some that they may not stop being a good fit for you, but you have to find that person who's going to push you and put that mirror in front of you that your family and friends just won't do. Because compliments are great, but if you're not giving me things that I can work on, like, okay.
That's why we're here, is to grow, and to become the best versions of ourselves. And if we don't have those people that hold that mirror, and I say that a lot in my coaching practice, or even to myself, like when somebody holds a mirror to me, I'm like, you held a mirror to me, and what I saw wasn't pretty, but I learned and I understand now. And so I love that. It's like the humility to be able to see that and be able to do something about it. What would you say to a dentist or an orthodontist that was struggling to have a critical conversation? Because it's easier to not, but it's so important to have a critical conversation. What encouragement would you give them, or what would you tell them in order for them to move that forward?
When it comes to critical and confrontational conversations, let's just submit they're not easy. They're not easy because there's so much at stake. If there is any way for you to practice the conversation ahead of time with someone that you do trust, I definitely recommend that because it'll make it more smoother. You'll feel more prepared. I would do in a space where you know your emotions are not going to get the best of you, whether that's in the morning, at night, or in the afternoon, a time and space where you know you can be responsive and not reactive, and also learning to listen. It's hard. It's hard for me. I love to talk. I'm an extrovert. So I have to remind myself all the time, like, don't say anything, Corinne. Let them talk. Let the people speak. Because very often when you let the person you're having the conversation say what's on their mind, they're going to tell you exactly what you need to hear in order to resolve to move forward. And sometimes it's hard. I have them all the time, and I just give them my direct attention. I'm not looking at a computer. I'm not looking at a phone. I'm giving them, and you're listening. There's three forms of listening. There's listening that's passive listening. There's listening where you're quick to respond, and then you're listening to understand. And that is something that myself, like, I really struggle to listen, understand, but I know how important and how beneficial it is, because even if you don't agree at the end of the agreement or you don't get resolution, if the person felt they were heard and understood, you still have a relationship you can build on. That relationship has not been torn or damaged.
Oh my gosh, yes, it's 100%. And you can tell when somebody is listening to just reply back. Like you can feel that energy. And so I hope this gives everyone listening some encouragement on the importance of it, and then also some tools to have it, because some of these are very practical. And I really love everything that we've touched on. I know we don't have all day to talk about this. I feel like we could. I feel like we should just like start like a leadership seminar right now and get moving on it. But
Sure.
thank you so much for that. I really want to dive into kind of how you're shaping the future of dentistry. So I love to talk about the future of dentistry, because what we're doing right now, every single day, everything that we're working towards, working on, how we're developing ourselves, our teams, and as leaders, that's creating what is going to be in the future of dentistry and the future of the world. And so tell us what you're working on today that's going to help shape the future of dentistry, because I know it's really amazing.
Oh, well, thank you, Allison. One of the things I am working on is I'm getting ready to release a book. It's called Commander to Crown: Lessons Learned as a Naval Officer, Orthodontist, and a Beauty Queen. And that comes out April 26th. And this was a labor of love. It's a book about my life, my journey, and also the lessons I learned along the way, and people who were very beneficial and helped me at those forks of the road, at those critical points that I have their permission to share in my book. And one thing that I have seen as an orthodontist, and especially in our world that has just really blown up with social media, is people want to know who you are besides this professional person they see in front of them in a white coat. They want to know, like, are you a mom? Are you a godmother? Are you an aunt? Are you a father? Are you a, pastor in your church? Like, what are the things about you? Because it makes you more human and more relatable and empathetic to their situation. And when you have those multiple sides of who you can share, that's going to be what people are going to remember when they walk into your office or they meet you at a conference, is how you really made them feel. And that is the future of dentistry. Let's be honest, there's tons of amazing orthodontists and general dentists out there. But do you remember the filling they did in the mouth? Do you remember everything they did about their smile? Or do you remember how they made you feel every time they sat down in your chair, or or they listened to you? And that is something that I really am hoping to see, is kind of break that stigma of the dentist office being such a scary place, versus it's a place where you go and they make you feel better and feel more confident. And that's something that I do in my office. And, I have to, it's tough. I will be honest. In the military, I have a little bit more, I have a hierarchy and other things that I have to be respectful and remind myself of. But it doesn't mean you can't be professional and respectful and make people feel good. And that's something that I even do. I have the honor of treating military kids here. They call them brats in the military. But even yesterday, I had a young boy who was really he was a teenager, kind of taken granted. And I said, the reason you're here is because I looked over, I said, your father is a Marine. He's a warrant officer who serves our country. And if he didn't do his job, I wouldn't have I wouldn't be able to see you and take care of you. And he just got really, really quiet. Because I asked him, I said, do you know what your dad does? And he's like, I don't. I said, why don't you go home tonight and ask him what he does? And when I come see you to take off your braces next time, you can tell me one cool thing about your dad's job. And that is just another way to have people see the other side of being an orthodontist. And I think that's really important.
I so agree with that. And I think as we get, the world is getting faster, there's more technology, it's more competitive, all of these things are changing, but the human touch and the human element is becoming more and more important. And I think that's something that's never going to go away. And it's something that we as individuals and as healthcare providers, something that I remind my teams of all the time is like, we're in the business of changing lives. It might be moving teeth. It might be developing a proper and healthy occlusion over the course of somebody's life. It might be removing decay in somebody's mouth and helping them be healthy. It might be battling periodontal disease. But at the end of the day, we're here as dental healthcare providers to change people's lives. And just as your example, that kid might remember that forever. That might have changed the relationship he had with his father because you're bringing every hat to the table with your leadership skills, your life skills, all of the things that you've been through. And so like, I would encourage my doctors listening to this to like share their gifts with their patients, all of their gifts, not just their clinical gifts, but every gift that they have, because we have that amazing and unique opportunity to touch people's lives and be consistently in their lives for a period of time. So that's amazing. Thank you for sharing that story. And I would love for you to share where people can get to know more of you, to follow you, to get your book. Like, where can they find you on the internet?
So I have a website that's going to be coming out soon as well. The last week in April, it's going to be drcorinnedevin.com, and that's DrCorinnedevin. And that's the same name you can use to find me on Instagram, as well as on Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn. And, please reach out. I always love hearing from people, whether it's orthodontists, people in the dental industry. I will be at the American Association of Orthodontists. I'm actually one of the live speakers where we're connecting with people back that are doing the virtual course from the live course, as well as I do come to the States about every 3 to 4 months, depending on the travels with Japan. So yes, next year I will be back stateside, stationed in California, which I'm very looking forward to being back in the United States. But yes, reach out soon. I love being part of people's journey and networking and seeing what other people are doing in the other parts of the world. Because if we can grow and learn and share it, why not? Like gone is the age of where people feel that they have to keep things private. And if you do that, I respect that. But for me, I'm someone who loves to share and grow and learn, and I would love to hear from you.
Love that. Thank you so much for your time, for waking up early in Japan on a Friday morning. It's still Thursday for us here in Bermuda, but thank you so much for being here, for sharing your wisdom, your light, and for being on the show today, and for everything that you are doing in your profession and in your personal life as well. And I'm so excited to meet you in person in just a few weeks. So go and reach out to Corinne and go get her book and learn from her. And we're so excited to see how you're going to shape the future of dentistry.
Well, thank you so much, Allison. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.